Olá, muito boa tarde a todas as pessoas que nos estão a ver. Hoje estamos aqui com duas pessoas ativistas da Polónia, no fundo para falar um pouco sobre aquela que tem sido a situação atual do país, mas também como plataforma de lançamento da angariação de fundos que a ILGA Portugal lançou no dia de ontem para ajudar as pessoas LGBTI na Polónia. No fundo, esta ação acaba por ser impulsionada por uma série de protestos que foram originados pela prisão de duas pessoas ativistas na Polónia em agosto, sendo que o caso da Margot foi o caso que acabou por ter maior visibilidade nos mídia e que de alguma forma impulsionou uma série de protestos e de revoltas sociais sobre aquilo que é a realidade das pessoas LGBTI na Polónia. Temos connosco hoje duas pessoas, ativistas, que nos vão dar, no fundo, o seu contributo sobre a situação atual que estão a viver e também sobre as expectativas de futuro. Por um lado, temos a Magda Dropek, que é graduada em jornalismo e que durante 10 anos fez parte da edição da maior revista LGBT e queer na Polónia, que é a queer.pl, e desde 2012 que é co-organizadora do Queer May Festival e da Equality March de Cracóvia. É também desde 2013 membro da direção da Equality.pl, a fundação, cujas ações são muito focadas nas pessoas LGBTI que vivem no Sul e em cidades do interior. Ela é também parte do Council para Igual Tratamento de Cracóvia e trabalha no Parlamento para uma coligação de esquerda de Maciej Gdula. Temos também connosco o Adek, que é uma pessoa não binária e anarquista, envolvida numa organização que são os Rhythms of Resistance, que é uma organização anticapitalista, antissexista, antirracista e também do Camp for Climate, que é um grupo informal que luta pela igualdade social e justiça ecológica. Faz também parte de uma organização que distribui material para homens trans. So thank you very much for being here with us, Magda and Adek, and to share with us how's the current situation in Poland and your expectations about the future. As you know, this is a very important thing for all the LGBTI organizations around the world, because what you are living right now in Poland, we could live in Portugal in the next years. We don't know. So I would first ask you, how hard is it to be an LGBTIQ person in Poland nowadays? For you, Adek, as an anarchist perspective, and for you, Magda, as someone who is working on the system. So we will start with Adek, please.
Okay. Hi, thank you for inviting me. Right now I feel like the queer community here lives under a lot of tension, like every day, and it's really exhausting to just, we are bombarded with those bad news coming from media, coming from the government, etc. So it's like you wake up in the morning and you're not really sure what to expect, what bad can happen today. And me personally, I wake up every day like preparing myself that something bad will definitely happen today. So I feel like the community is just exhausted and tired with all this tension building up every day. But on the other hand, and during this year, I've experienced a lot of support coming both from the community but also from our allies. So it's really nice to see how this tough situation bonds us together and mobilizes people to create new grassroots groups, to just support each other in ways that people didn't think about before.
Okay, thank you. Magda?
When it comes to my opinion on this topic, I think it also depends on the city and on the region in Poland, because as a person, yeah, maybe more into the system, but it's not that I'm like completely against any other way of activism, for example. So as a person who lives in Krakow, which is quite it's the second biggest city in Poland, quite open with a quite multicultural history, very tourist one. I know it's now it's less possible because of the pandemic, but with many people around the world and many cultures, it's of course easier to live as a LGBTQI person. But and I know that I have this privilege that I can live in a Krakow by a choice because it's my home by a choice. But from the other hand, I think that even for me, when I was always thinking about myself, that I'm brave enough to never give up, for example, with wearing rainbow bags or rainbow pins on, anything like this on myself on a public sphere. Even me in the last year and the last 2 years, to be honest, I feel less and less safe on the streets, even in Krakow, because of the antagonization of society and the curses and the names which we heard very often. And we see it also on the walls. We hear it on the television. We read it in the newspapers, in the social media. So even as myself, I don't have many experience of violence, for example, but as Adek said, the tension and the climate is really, really difficult to live, like in a, thinking about future, for example. So I think that it's also an issue for our community, that it's really difficult. I know that even also in the pandemic atmosphere, but it's not a place to think about safer, more open, more friendly future, and also for our families, for example. So I know that it depends on a lot of issues, but it's very, also I feel very tired with everything here, what is happening. So I think it's also common feeling for many people in our community.
Okay, yeah. As you might know, for us who live outside Poland, we don't know if the international projection of the media is telling us everything. So what we know nowadays is that there are like a lot of protests happening. Before it was in some way connected with LGBTI rights. Now we know that something is happening with the abortion, and when a decision made by the Constitutional Court, but we don't understand what is happening right now on the streets. Can you please try to explain us what kind of movements are going out and speak out these days in Poland, and what are the main reasons? And also, if this is like a new phenomenon, or if if it was regular to have all these protests in the Poland. So we will start with Adek again.
Yeah, so the most queer protest started in August when there was a situation of a massive persecution of queer people, and people will just be arrested for allegedly putting flags on monuments, and one person got detained for a month for stopping a truck that spews like homophobic lies all around the Warsaw and other cities. So yeah, it was a moment when the LGBT community was like massively persecuted by the police, and people just weren't having any of it anymore, and just were trying to block the arrest of this activist who spent a month in detention, and there were clashes with the police, etc. So that was in August, and right now we see this on a much bigger scale. Because it is connected to the abortion rights, so more people are interested in this situation. So we've got really huge, massive protests that haven't been seen in the country for decades. And yeah, we've got hundreds of thousands of people going to the streets to protest the abortion ban that effectively was introduced a month ago. And what is interesting to see is that many different groups of people came together and for like a week or two protested hand in hand. And of course, at the beginning, the protests were like very, I don't know, trendy to go to, and many people just use them as an excuse to go into the streets and have a beer, for example, and they didn't really care about the politics. But yeah, it was still interesting that women's rights cause attracted so many people that you know, you've got anarchists hand in hand with you know, regular people from that were never interested in politics before, just you know, dancing to our Rhythms of Resistance group, for example, and having fun in the street and you know, screaming anti-cop slogans that before only, for example, very radical groups used to chant in their marches, and right now it's completely mainstream, and people just hate the cops for what they're doing with the people in the streets, and are interested in, I don't know, alternatives, and are looking for ways to, for example, I don't know, have some other measures rather than police itself to control the safety in the country. So it's we feel like in anarchist groups, we feel like the knowledge that we have right now is in high demand by the people who are scared of the police, are scared of the repressions, don't know what to do, don't know what like what rights do they have. So the anarchist groups is trying to share this knowledge and to inform people about all of that. So it's really really interesting to see how many people are changing their perspectives right now because of the violence of the state, and how many young people take part in those protests, and those young people are not like those who just want to have a beer in the street, but they are there every step of the way. Like the whole month, I always see very young people who know what they why they came to the protest. They know that they want the access to a legal abortion, to free abortion, and they are not interested in any kind of compromise with the church that we had before. They are getting more and more radical, and I can see that they have a lot of power in themselves. They believe in themselves that they can go to a, you know, illegal protest in the middle of the pandemic, and you know, they are not. Of course, they feel threatened by the police, but they still come and they still do what they think that is right. So it's very empowering to see those people in the streets.
Yeah, thank you, Magda. For you as a woman, how do you describe the current situation of the protests regarding the abortion? We see thousands of people on the streets, like almost on a daily basis. Do you feel the support of the community? What is changing, and why did the court have this decision right now regarding the abortion ban?
I think that, of course, I think that Adek said almost everything about what is happening now. But the another thing which comes to my mind is also that those protests became also an excuse for people to show their anti-government sentiments. And for example, for me as an activist, it was also like a challenge. An activist who is a bit engaged in co-organizing rallies here. It was a challenge to how to remind people that the main reason we are on the streets is abortion rights, our women's rights are like equal rights for people who can get pregnant. So it's also, and another thing is that we have to remember that in my opinion, Polish society is having some kind of fast forward lesson of civil society. So especially in the last 5 years, so like everything is really happening very fast. And the another thing is also the anti-Catholic church sentiments, which also showed up very. For it was surprise for me that it happened so fast. That Catholic Church is, which is very important factor on the political scene in Poland, also when it comes to LGBT rights, became an enemy of the people so fast. So it's also something which is really make my heart smile, to be honest. But for someone who is, we have looking at history and the last 5 years. We have to also remember that there are in Poland 3 cases in which is like becoming abortion legally. And the one is when there is a serious threat to the life or health of the pregnant woman. Also, the second one is in the case of rape or incest, of course, confirmed by the prosecutor. And the third one is the one which was banned by our like something around constitutional tribunal. After the around the problem with the fetus. We have to remember that it's one of the most strict abortion laws in Europe, and there is also quite group of people who are think that it's a good idea, and we call them the defenders of compromise. So in 2016, when for the first time ruling party was trying to completely ban abortion and prosecute women and doctors and everything, and when for the first time like tens of thousands of people came to the streets on a black protest. I remember when in Krakow even I put out my rainbow flag, and I've met a lot of let's say not very friendly reactions from people saying it's not your case, why do you have to all the time remind about yourself, you are putting your rainbow everywhere. Of course there were mostly men who are very not happy that we are there. And it changed in the last 4 years. And now I think that, for example, for me as a part of LGBT community and activist in Krakow, there is a lot of rainbow. I always put my rainbow flag on myself during rallies. It's important for me to remind that we are also there, and it's also our case. And it's just like 3 months after what Adek said about our Polish Stonewall. So I think that it's also some kind of lessons of solidarity for us. And another thing, why I said about the compromise, that I see that there's the group of people who are so strict defenders of the compromise is getting smaller and smaller. So like for example, slogans, pro-abortion slogans, which were seen as a radical in 2016, are something we read on our walls, for example, now. So I think that the change really came very fast, and I feel it as someone who is engaged in this. And from one hand, of course, I'm very happy, and I see this as a hope for the future, also for this poor society, really tired of everything what is happening. But from the other hand, I know that it's still like just the process of the change. So there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I imagine. But when we think about politics at the national level, what changed since July until now? Because we still have the same president. The government is very similar. It's because in some way he used arguments against LGBTIQ people during the campaign. do that help him winning the elections? What changed?
Is it question for me?
It could be for you and then for Adek, yes.
Okay, because I wonder if the election topic for Adek is a good topic.
Okay, so maybe we can start with Adek. What
Maybe
changed?
it's more interesting for Adek, I think, to hear the Adek's opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I'm so overloaded with the protests and being active in all those groups and on the streets that I don't really follow that closely what's happening in politics. I just know that I hate those guys. I know that they will not do anything good for me. I want to get rid of them, and I'm not really, yeah, it would be awesome if I could just, abolish the government all in all and just live in an anarchist utopia. That would be cool. If not, then yeah, I guess that I will just maybe trust more the leftist groups, and I just assume that they're not the best, but they're the best we have. So if we have a vote, I'm one of those anarchists that is so scared of what's going on in the politics and what will happen with my family, with my closest friends, if we have another term of right-wing people in power, that I vote in elections. I always vote left, and I'm not happy about it. I don't trust these people 100%, but I still trust them more than I trust the right-wing people. And you see in the last months, you see the left-wing politicians also on the streets using their privileges as MPs as politicians to help people legally, to help people be safe around the police, etc. So even though I don't agree with them 100% on the political level, I still appreciate the fact that that they're using their privilege in a way that helps the cause right now. So when it comes to the change in the politics of our ruling party, well, I feel that the LGBT topic is just like a distraction for them, because every time there is like a major crisis, and every time people start getting angry about the COVID regulations, for example, etc., then the ruling party starts talking about the LGBT community. So everyone just shifts the attention, shifts the focus on our community, and I feel like their views do not really reflect the views of the entire population, because what we see in the polls is that above 50% of the Polish population is pro civil unions, for example. So they're not that homophobic as our ruling party. But since, I don't know, there are a lot of misunderstandings about the community, and it is easy to I don't know, create some sort of, I don't know, theories about our movement, and to picture us in a centered way. It is very easy to use us as some hot topic to just change the discourse when it's getting hot for the politicians in some aspects. Yeah, so I guess that's it.
Okay, Magda, I don't know if you want to add something.
I asked Adek because a lot of my anarchist friends said to me in July, yeah, that the situation is so bad in Poland that even anarchists vote. So
Yeah.
it's, I think, a common joke here. I think that for me, for example, politics, yeah, the political scene in Poland is not something we can count on. And for example, myself engaged a bit in the politics last year. Also with the very idealistic idea that if we won't change anything, nothing will change there. So it's more like a challenge for me, for example, to trying to do something on a grassroots movement in a like, in this space. And it's I helped in 3 campaigns, one of the leftist coalition here, and I'm a bit proud now when I see those people on the streets and with people, and when I hear them in our parliament. And I think that even if we're as a third force in the parliament and we can't do anything, I think it's important to have another language there, even, and have allies. And also, most of those people are people from organizations who are activists, or people working with people also. So I think it's important to have people like this. And if I can add that. It's always easy to build politics on fear and on hate. It's more difficult to propose something positive. And in 2015, before the general elections in Poland, Law and Justice Party, our local fundamentalists, built their campaign on a fear against refugees. Even we didn't have any refugees in Poland. In 2019, before the European Parliament elections, they built their campaign on a fear against us. So it's not something I think that politicians can be proud of, that they can't present to society anything positive. There are only building on hate. It's nothing good. But I think that everything with what is happening now, it's like the first step to their losing everything. And it's just they are trying to defend themselves on everything they have.
Okay, thank you. I know that it's a little bit challenging even asking this to you, Adek, knowing that you are an anarchist person. But as we saw in the past, European Union was built with some common principles. For example, respect everyone, the civil rights of everyone, and equality for everyone. We also saw in the past, for example, the intervention of European Union during the economical crisis, like formulating politics to some countries in order to influence their economical situation. Right now, do you feel that the European Union is doing less than they could, for example, knowing the existence of LGBTI free zones? How do you feel about the non-intervention of European Union regarding these topics in Poland?
Yeah, I don't really believe that European Union can blame. I mean, yeah, they could do something, but I don't really rely on them doing anything. I believe more that if we want to change anything in our country, we should do it building from the grassroots movement, from the bottom up. And I don't believe that any intervention from the European Union will have like a positive effect on the situation right now, because our ruling party just doesn't care. And I guess that they will do anything to just continue with their politics, regardless of what the European Union thinks about that. So I think that I don't really expect the European Union to do anything. Of course, sometimes it is nice to see some politicians in the European Union supporting our cause and speaking up. But what I appreciate more, for example, is the case of the towns that are partners with the towns here in Poland that are in the LGBT free zones. That's the towns in Poland here that signed the documents, the documents that say that their communities are LGBT free. and now their partners, for example, in Germany, in Austria, in France, etc., are just resigning from the partnerships and resigning from any like relationship between those towns until the Polish towns do not withdraw from like the stance. So I really appreciate the fact that there are some communities out there in European countries that just want to send a signal that it's not acceptable, that we will not, for example, I don't know, support your town during like a cultural exchange or anything until I don't know, our kids are safe to go there, even regardless of their identity, of their orientation, etc. So I believe that those acts shocked the LGBT-free zones here in Poland more than anything that the European Union could do, because those little things, little partnerships with different towns gave the possibility for the kids to go abroad, for example, and I don't know, to learn a language, to meet some interesting people, etc. So I guess that this somehow showed that I don't know, people from Germany, from France are not having it, and will not be in partnership with someone who just don't respect the basic human rights.
Okay, thank you. And for you, Magda, you are working in politics and with the left parties. Do you feel that there is some kind of expectation that the influence of the European Union could change in some way what is happening at the national level with the politics, or not?
I consider myself as a European citizen also, and I think that European identity is quite important for me. And of course, everything what is happening now around European Union looks really bad in Poland, and I don't know how it will finish, but it's terrifying me, to be honest. And it's not like I see European Union in the cases, for example, when it comes to LGBT rights as something as a really important factor, unfortunately. And of course, I would like European Union to be more strict when it comes to what's happening in Poland, because we are like in the European Union in the 21st century, and things like no ideas of banning equality marches or LGBTI free zones shouldn't happen at all, to be honest. And I've heard that, for example, the idea is like implemented in Hungary and I think Italy already. So it's really terrifying that we are like pioneers in something like this in European Union. So I'd love to see more reaction. But from the other hand, I'm glad that that something is happening, and it's something that is quite loud in Polish media. For me, the conversation around, for example, the idea of ruling party when it comes to foreign policy, which they're trying to show themselves as someone who is like very strong and they are independent and so on. And I think that all the surrounding of really sad country which can only like implement outside hate, it's not something they want to be visible as in a political world scene, I think. So I think it's important. And of course, I know also, for me, to be honest, I'm glad when I see all the even symbolic gestures of solidarity, because it's really feeling me that I'm not left behind in Europe. So I think they are important, and we are trying to work them out also as an organizations, for example, and we are pulling, like speak about this with us because it's important to something. So it's not like that. It's not happening. If I can also towards about the partnerships, because it's something which is really like it's quite important topic for me. And what Alex said about the cutting ties, for example, with the cities with LGBTI free zones, because and what Alex said about, for example, kids visiting each other's countries and places. From the beginning, I'm on a position that the cutting ties is not good because it's again like leaving those people left behind. For example, LGBT communities in smaller cities, because mostly we are talking about smaller cities. And I'm trying to push again agenda of cooperation, for example, more, or like, for me, I see this also as an opportunity to speak about maybe redefine what those partnerships are, speak about values which are common, that it's not only like signing papers and having like signs on somewhere that we are partners. That it's maybe an opportunity to speak more about what is common for us and why we are doing it. So I think that it's now we don't feel it now what will be the impact of it, but I think that it's something very sad, especially for those small local communities and also for the LGBT people who are left there. So it makes me sad, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. I would also want to ask, and now for you, Adak, even knowing that everyone in some way or a lot of people are on the streets fighting for their rights and speaking out, we also know that the impact of the brutality that happened with the Margot in August in some way contribute to this. What kind of impact the what happened with Margot had in LGBTIQ organizations in Poland? Do you think that brings fear to LGBTI organizations, or in some way empower them to speak out, to fight for their rights, to be on the streets, to get more visible, and so on?
Yeah, I believe that it definitely brought a lot more of rage and empowerment. And I saw this really funny because I've been following what Margot and her Stop Bzdurom collective was doing from the very beginning, and I saw the reaction of the mainstream LGBT organizations here in Poland, and they were all like, "No, it's too radical. Spray painting on the walls, not really our vibe, and civil disobedience and blocking the." Blocking the homophobic vans, yeah, maybe it's too radical, and you use too many curse words in your posts on Facebook, etc. So they were really distancing themselves. But when this police brutality occurred, and so when people were just saw what it means to be persecuted by the police and by the state, then suddenly they realized that it is okay to curse. It is okay to be just furious, and I saw groups who before were like very reluctant to be connected with Margot and Stop Bzdurom collective. Were now very supportive, and they used their fan bases, their followers, etc., to inform about the cause, to show solidarity, to help out. Some bigger groups helped out and are still helping out with legal matters, etc. I've seen even among my friends who used to be like very friendly with the police, and thanking them after every Pride march that, hey, you didn't beat us this time, thank you very much. That right now they understand why we were so angry, and just not letting them to do that, and just begging them, please do not thank the cops for doing their jobs. And right now they understand. Right now they are more eager to listen about the violence of the state and the violence of the police that maybe they personally didn't feel before, but right now it's more and more visible what the scale of the violence, but also the invigilation, for example, is. Because during those protests we had a case that the police thought that one activist took part in this hanging of the rainbow flags on monuments in Warsaw, and they went 400 kilometers to the mountains, traced the phone of the person, went to the mountains for 400 kilometers, and went through the camp of 40 people, checking their papers and looking for the person. Then took the person back to Warsaw and kept her for 24 more hours, just because they saw on a video that someone is her height more or less and is dressed in black, and they thought, okay, let's go for that person, even though the person wasn't there during the action. So it's people are getting more and more aware of the fact, and they want to show solidarity, and they more and more radical.
Okay, thank you, Radek. Magda, I would like to ask you, what do you think that is the symbolic impact that the actions of the current government brings to Polish population? Because we know that sometimes when you pass, for example, a law, it will help on the pedagogy to say to the population what is normal and what it's not normal. When you have a government saying that LGBTIQ people do not deserve the same respect than other people, do you think that in some way this creates the feeling that LGBTIQ people are not normal people, and it put us on a very hard position regarding other people, or not?
I think that I look at it as a whole in the last 5 years, that a lot of processes came, and I think that Polish society changed, and a lot of people who are in the gray scale, they were indifferent, they were trying to pretend sometimes that they don't see what is happening. And I think that it's in last year especially, it became more and more difficult to pretend that you don't see. So the ally movement rose for sure, and I think that's something which will be important for the future. And I see at it also as something that one step backward, two step forward. So now we are maybe a bit one step backward, but it's everything preparing to the 2 steps forward. So I think that all the changes will be very much easier now to do. And even the fact that in the last 5 years we had rallies in the defense of independent judiciary, where also the rainbow flag was not pleasant in many places. Even if in country when you don't have equal rights, very often courts are the places where you can trying to fight for them. So it was obvious that it's important to be with rainbow there. And even there were judges who said that good that we are on a rally, because it will also impact our life when we don't have rights. So we were there were rallies in the defense of independent media. There were rallies in the defense of environment also, which is completely going to be destroyed by ruling party and greedy politicians. And we were everywhere. And I think that, for example, this rainbow flag became something common for people, that and a lot of people understood that if they want to defend democracy, for example, like it's important to also stand next to minorities which are not protected by law, for example, or by are oppressed. And of course, the last half year, all the campaign, the presidential campaign, all the Duda awards, everything what happened in in Warsaw in August, and it was like a breakthrough moment, I think, for community and also for many people who are indifferent till then. So I see this, as I said at the beginning, for me, it's something what I see as also opportunity and a hope for a change and for something better. But definitely, as a community, we have to focus on supporting each other, on building communities, on to be up for each other when the dark times came finally, unfortunately, on a solidarity. And we have to understand also that government or police or the institutions won't help us if something bad happens. So it's like also like a space to build this civil society and to build this social solidarity, and also to know each other better, even if it's difficult because of the COVID-19 situation now. But there are also, for me, for example, new opportunities like this that we can meet online, and you also like let us to have our own voice to speak about what is happening here, which is quite important. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Adek, what has been the role of the social media and when you think, for example, not just about the media, but also on the social networks regarding the protests and the positive message of LGBTI rights? Do you think that in some way the media have been allied with us and fighting for LGBTI rights, or they are connected with the government and in some way block the message?
Well, I guess it depends. Of course, we've got the public television that is completely controlled by the government, and it is just it's sometimes it's really fun to watch when you can feel like you're in North Korea or something. The people there even look like that a little bit, and what they're saying is just so completely distorted and so completely. I'll just say it is messed up. What lies can they come up with and just lie with a straight face and yeah, it continues every single day. But also there are some independent media that are gaining momentum right now, and they've been gaining momentum for the last few years. Yeah, there are many outlets that try to be supportive, try to give the LGBT people their voice, and I guess that we are still in the process of teaching the media that, hey, if you want to talk about the LGBT issues, maybe ask someone from the LGBT community. If you're talking about abortion rights, maybe ask someone who can get pregnant, for example. And yeah, we have a liberal channel here that usually is very painting themselves as very pro-democratic, very I don't know, progressive, etc. But it took hundreds of thousands of people going into the streets in defense of defending the abortion rights, for them to invite only women to the talk about the abortion rights. Like before, it was usually, I don't know, 7 men and 1 woman if they were, if you were lucky. So it's very male dominated world, and I think that it will take some time to switch and to teach the media that they should give more space to the minorities, to women, etc. When it comes to social media, I guess that, for example, TikTok played a huge role in mobilizing young people to come to the protests.
Really?
Because the protests, I read about it. I don't really have TikTok. I don't really follow what's going on there. But I've read that the young people who use TikTok, it was just trending there. So it was trendy to go to the protest. It was trendy to talk about abortion. It was trendy to, you know, post stories and pictures from the protests. So and I've seen many young people. And what also was very uplifting, that those people really knew what they were doing, really knew why they're here, and were prepared. For example, they had the number of the legal aid written on their forearms in case of any problems with the cops. When I was asking them, hey, you know what to do when the police gives you any problems? They were like, yeah, of course we know, we have to do that, and that. So it was really awesome to see, you know, people who are, I don't know, 16, 17, and are better prepared than most of us here on the rally. So yeah, I guess that the social media played a huge role in you know, promoting the cause. It comes both to TikTok and also to Instagram and to Facebook, that many people were just connected there and inviting and encouraging each other to come to the protest. And many people, you know, because in the big cities, it's always easier because you always find someone who organizes those rallies. But in the smaller towns, people had only social media to find you know, people to organize with. So it was really important that it was not only the big cities that protested, but, you know, each and every small town of, I don't know, 20, 30,000 people, there were always something going on there. And it's still going on. And people, I guess, switched from this mindset that we have to wait around and see if someone organizes something. They believe that, hey, it's illegal anyway, so I can just say that, hey, let's go on and see who comes. And they just started doing that. So it gave a lot of power and you know, empowerment to the people in local communities.
Yeah, thank you. Magda, for us who are living outside Poland and really we are really worried with the current situation, how do you think that other countries and people outside Poland can some way help the current situation that you are living?
For me, one of the most important thing is what we are, for example, doing now. So we have the opportunity to speak with our own voice, because as you can imagine, the government is trying to also like influence the foreign opinion with their fake news, of course, and like trying to speak about the situation in their own history. So like of the interest of foreign media, of course, and to be able also to explain what is happening in your own languages, not only English, important. And I think it's happening that a lot of journalists is interested in, and I think it was a challenge for us because there is not now such a big amount of people who are in contact, for example. So for me, it was like a challenge to spread those contacts to the people somewhere there, because the interest was so big. Of course, trying to interest also institutions in your country and your governments. So every gestures of support is something important, I think, and it's also like turning the eyes of the public opinion that something bad is happening. Of course, all the fundraisers, because it's we don't have like a public funding when it comes to organizations. And now what we see that a lot of we are again focused mostly on support, like a legal one and a psychological one, and of course there is a lot of wonderful people who are helping us, but I think it's something that we to be able to answer all the needs, for example, of the community, we also have to have money for it. And of course now, like, we also spend money on everything around the rallies, like banners, leaflets, even megaphones and so on, because police is taking our gear all the time now. So it's like, like some fun on the street. We are buying
Yeah.
them, they are taking them, and it's crazy. So I think that, and also like be open about it and be vocal on social media. As Sadek said, that I know that we are all tired with all the bad informations and all the informations all the time, but especially now when we sit a lot in the front of with our phones and with our computers, it's important to communicate to each other and also to communicate about what is happening. I'm trying to be more active on Twitter, so time to time I'm trying to tweet also in English what is happening, especially when something important is happened, to give also some kind of different point of view and the point of view of our own. And I know that it's also important to be in touch with the foreign social
Yeah.
media users.
Okay, thank you. Only have a few minutes to finish the conversation. Thank you very much. I have one last question to both of you. We will start with Adek. In your opinion, I would like to know what are your expectations on the future? What is going to be the impact of the protests if the current government will change the way that they act regarding LGBTI topics? And also one message to people who are living outside Poland but who are also struggling with their current national governments.
Yeah, so right now I don't really have huge expectations, because after the month of ongoing protest, I'm really tired, and right now my hope is that we don't get burnt out in like next 2 weeks, because I see that already activists are really tired and have this mindset of, oh no, something is going on in the streets. I have no energy, but I still will go because I just can't miss it. So I don't really believe that anything will change in the way that the ruling party talks about LGBT community, but I hope that something will change regarding the abortion, because we already see that the government is not so sure about their decision, and they are trying to talk again about the compromise, etc. And they know that 70% of the population supports these protests. So I believe that they will not follow through with this decision. And yeah, hopefully they will not go back to the compromise, but introduce something better for the people. But the biggest hope I see is in just kicking them out of the office and introducing some new people who will focus more on the social aspect of these whole protests. Because we have to remember that the abortion is, even with the abortion ban, many abortions happen anyway because of the grassroots groups that organize abortions outside of Poland, in Germany and in Austria and Czechia. And right now, this whole financial impact of of healthcare is going from the government, who just gets rid of the abortions legally, and is taken by the grassroots group who are self-funded, who are funded by, I don't know, the people who want to help them, and they organize this whole healthcare around reproductive rights. So I guess that in the future I would love to see people, I would not love to see someone ruling the country, but if someone has to rule the country, I want them to be aware of the social aspects, that not everyone comes from the big city, not everyone is well paid, and not everyone can afford another child. And it's just not a matter of, I don't know, ideology, it's just a matter of social situation. So yeah, and when it comes to the message to people outside of Poland who are also struggling, well, I would say that I would encourage you to involve yourself in the grassroots movement and to build communities. And because this is the only thing that you can really rely on. You can't really rely on the politicians. You can't really rely on the government structure, as we see in Poland, that with the COVID situation, we are really in deep problem. And you have to rely on your neighbors, you have to rely on your friends, on your peers. And if we learn to support each other, like from the very basic in everyday manner, then we can think about changing the whole country. But right now, let's focus on your environment and your close relations.
Okay, thank you very much, Adek. And you, Magda, what are your expectations about the future? What do you think it will change? And as well, one last message for the people who are struggling with the situation similar that you are living there in Poland.
I can only sign for the words of Alex and like everything, but for me, like there are two most important issues now, and the one is legal abortion, and the second is making government out of office. So like two are the most important thing. Even to be honest, like personally, if I'm thinking about another campaign, like the fourth one in 2 years, it's like we're terrified.
Yeah.
But to be honest, yeah, let's like legal abortion and making law and justice out of power in this country, because it's like destroying for every one of us. And like Adek, I don't know what future will bring, and I'm a bit afraid of it, to be honest. But I'm trying to say to people that, like, the fear we feel, or the anxiety or the sadness, they are also okay, because bad things are happening here, and we have a right to feel like this. But we are not alone, and remember that you are not alone also. So we can go through this like as a community. So we will see what will happen. I hope that like the deep change in society started. Like also like the making Catholic Church less important actor of the political and social scene also started, which is really important, I think. And that maybe not now. I know that it's also like the beginning of process for the next month. But I hope that it will be something important for everyone. And when it comes to people abroad, of course, count on yourself, and of course be aware what is happening also, because even sometimes when you see a really nice guy in a seat, it's still a fascist, but in a seat. And I think that's also, of course, the problem is with media, who authorize people like this, and they just want to have clickbait. So it's better. It's easier, for example, to to normalize those fascist insults in television. So be aware of it also, because I think it's important, and support each other, build communities, take care of each other, and to rest sometimes also, because it's important to rest.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you. It was very enlightening for us to understand the current situation of Poland. So thank you for explaining us everything, because we always depend of the media and the message that they bring to us. So it's very important to hear your voice, who are living right now the current situation in Poland. Portanto, aqui terminamos a nossa conversa com os ativistas. Não se esqueçam que o nosso o fundraising continua a acontecer até ao próximo dia 21 de dezembro e, portanto, façam, por favor, o vosso contributo e garantam que também nós, em Portugal, conseguimos ajudar as pessoas polacas que estão a precisar. So, thank you very much, Magda and Adek, and thank you to everyone who was watching us. We will see each other next time for sure. So thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.